You thought today was the day that I wasn't going to upload, and to be honest, I did too. Today we're going to check out my entire grading stack for both PSA and CGC. I'm going to give you guys all the details on what I'm grading, why I'm sending it. We'll start with PSA. So first and foremost, we have a dark Dragonite. It looks like the flash on my camera came on automatically. That's kind of weird. Anyway, we'll run with it. So we have this dark Dragonite and then a second copy. Both of these are fresh from the theme decks. I got two unsealed but unopened theme decks, meaning like the box was opened up but the contents were still like sealed in like the piece of plastic you get. Anyway, if both of these were to grade like a 7 or an 8, which is what I would expect from them, we would be cooking, so that would be great. Here we have a nice EX, or sorry, not EX. This is an Expedition Reverse Holo for Alligator. Pretty cool. By the way, each of these are cards that I featured on my new Geminspector Instagram account, so be sure to check me out there if you haven't already. Not a massive fan of the platform, but trying to get as much marketing exposure as possible. Here we have a really nice Lunatone. This is from Sandstorm. So this was the second Nintendo era set, aside from Ruby Sapphire. So pretty cool card there. Next up, we have Wally's Training as a reverse holo from EX Emerald. So I was kind of on the fence, and that scratch also, by the way, is on the card saver. But I was like on the fence if I wanted to send this or not. I think it has a decent chance at a 10, and maybe this is just me thinking like 2023 and coping, but like these cards are pretty low pop in reverse holo, and so I just think it's worth like the moonshot. If nothing else. Here's a very nice Lugia from EX Unseen Forces. This is the Cosmos Holo from the theme deck. I don't believe that that's a swirl you're seeing by his wing right there. I don't think that's a swirl. It's just like the alignment of dots. But anyway, really sick card. If this grades a 10, that would also feel amazing. Here's a Grumpig pre-release card from EX Emerald. So I got like 12 or 11 of these in that collection that I purchased a while ago. Sorry about that. I don't think that very many of them are actually gradable at PSA especially, but I'm going to send this one off. This is another card from that same collection. This is a Camerupt EX, just a Japanese version. And this is from some like fire starter pack or something like that. I have a few other cards from the same weird little promotional item or whatever, but yeah, so not a super high-end card, but it should gem. And then we've got a Leafeon V-Star from Crown Zenith, and lastly a well-centered whitening free Tyranitar from Battle Styles. I actually just got this in the mail yesterday, so came right on time. So as you can see, you know, this is a smaller submission, but it's like vintage heavy, and I'm really trying to not mix vintage and modern to the littlest extent possible, I'll say, at PSA. I'm trying to like make sure that it's either predominantly vintage or predominantly modern. And I also am not looking to mix like One Piece and Pokemon at this moment either, because I think that they just have like different graders in charge of that stuff. And I think that, you know, I don't know about you guys, but PSA is kind of being rough. So anyways, I'm just trying to like limit my exposure to brutality, and I think that just like giving them a siloed type of card to look at is probably going to be what's best. So we'll see if that pans out or not. Now, the CGC stack that I have to grade is a little bit more interesting. So for reference, I'm sending submissions like this off to PSA like bi-weekly. Usually, you know, historically I've had a little bit more of a mix. As I mentioned, I'm trying to like eliminate that and be more specified. So this is only like 8 or 9 cards that's going off to PSA tomorrow. However, I should probably have like another 30 or so, like 30 or 40 to send off to them before the end of next week. And then this is like a 50 card CGC submission that I'll be sending via Fanatics. And I'm sending, like, this is a very small submission compared to, yeah, I'm usually like right around the 70 to 80 card range. But I'm going to be trying to send off submissions about this size, you know, bi-weekly or even weekly if it's only just 50 card submissions. But anyway, some interesting ones here. A lot of this mid-era stuff I don't think is going to get a 10 at CGC. So by example, there's a little bit of whitening, like you've got a white dot there. And then where else? Oh yeah, a bit of whitening down here. So realistically, I think this will be like a CGC 8. The hollow is very clean, so maybe they'll be... I'm like, so here's my thinking. I think it's going to be an 8. However, they could bless me with a 9 on a card like this. An 8-5 would also be kind of like a nod. But anyways, so that's just kind of my thinking. Like all this vintage stuff, if I get a 9, I'm pretty much cooking. But we'll see. So here we have a reverse Wheezing from Expedition. We've got the reverse Cyndaquil as well. And then we have a reverse hollow Feebas from EX Emerald. Kind of cool. There's 2 Feebas in this set. We've got the Rhyhorn. This one is also, again, these are like PSA 8 condition. But when we get into these non-hollows, so with these types of cards, the only thing that I allowed was like off-centering, and there might be like a copy with like a white dot or something like that. But anyways, like these two, it's like I'm in them for nothing. The grading fee is pretty small, so we'll see what happens. But how I kind of stack these, since there's multiple copies of every one of these per deck. And then also for like EX Team Rocket Returns, which we'll see in a second, I opened multiple decks. So there are some instances where I stacked like a lesser copy followed by a better one to try to game the system. We'll see if that actually works or not. But I don't know. I've done things like that in the past, and I haven't seen like repeatable enough results or evidence suggesting it's legit to care that much every single time. But I'm going for it. So we've got 2 Snubbull from Unseen Forces. Got lucky, and there's a couple decent looking Chikorita here. Again, like a Gem Mint 10 would probably do quite well. I've never actually sent like vintage or mid-era to CGC via Fanatics during this boom, so I'm just kind of like YOLOing it. In the previous 1 or 2 submissions I sent off, I also included stuff like this. So we'll see if I get like just a chain of 3 times being absolutely demolished. But we'll see. Haven't gotten the data back yet, folks. So here we have an Oddish as well, kind of cute. We've got a couple Natu. Protective Orb. This is a kind of a dusty one that I'm sending off, but it kind of reminds me of like a Power 9 magic card or something, so we'll see if there is the right buyer for that. Professor Elm's Training Method, so obviously we just have like the starters there. All the dark Pokemon I was like happy to see if I could send off, so we have Dark Magneton, Dragonair times 3. If any of those Gem 10, that would be absolutely spectacular. We've got just 1 Dratini. And then obviously like the Rocket themed cards too. So the Rocket's Pokeball, Rocket's Mission, and then the Rocket's Meowth. These ones I'll be hard pressed for a 10 if I'm being honest. Then we've got a couple Meryl, the Coughing, another Dratini. I'll have to get that put up here. And did I have a dupe on that Magneton as well? So obviously I need to go through this submission once more and just make sure I'm like dotting all my I's and crossing my T's. Then this Oranberry I originally had in the PSA pile, but it's just like, man, if this gets a 9 at PSA at the $50 tier, I'm gonna feel real bad. If this gets a 9 or a 10 at CGC, then I'm gonna feel probably okay. So that was just the extent of my logic on that one. I think the upside is lower, but the potential downside is so much lower that it becomes asymmetric in that regard. So that's why this Oranberry card you don't care about is going to CGC. Here we have a Galarian Obstagoon. All these trainer gallery cards are so difficult to find without like edge fraying and stuff. So I have graded a substantially low amount of these during my time in the hobby. Illustration rares, however, are a different story. These things are, in my experience, like the second half of Scarlet and Violet particularly, and then also like Mega Evolution so far has been pretty solid. So here we have Deino, Shroodle, which, goodness gracious, I'm like skeptical on that. Here we've got a Dugong, which should do quite well. Zoelius, which I should definitely have up here by the Deino. I don't think that there's that many like people on Fanatics that are looking for like sequential sets or whatever. But you never know. Here we've got an Electrode from Hidden Fates. Centering on that one could hold it back, but again, sometimes CGC will allow a little bit of like front centering to slide. But we'll see how it goes. Here we've got a Mallow, which is quite nice. Hydreigon EX, Origin Form Dialga, Regigigas, this is a Glaceon. The Leafeon was in the PSA stack. Again, I think this one might just be a little bit it is a little bit top heavy, and so I'm thinking that CGC will be a little bit more like lenient. Maybe I'll get like a 9.5 or a Gem 10 on something like this. Here we've got an Inteleon Altar, Ethan's Adventure, Brock Scouting, Carolus could dust me, and then we have Acerola's Mischief as well. But again, obviously with this submission, I'm heavily hoping that all of this stuff just does insanely well because, You know, I'm hoping that it just doesn't come up on Fanatics that often, so it's going to be a bit of a spectacle. But again, who knows? We'll find out together. That's what I'm grading. Hope you guys thought this one was cool. A little less informative than the majority of my content, but again, trying not to crush my upload streak, and I do think that this is kind of a decent video topic premise. Whether or not I mastered it this time around, that's up for negotiation, but that's what it is. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.